Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marian Carberry, and it is a pleasure to be here with you today. Today, I would like to talk about failure. You see, I think each time I've failed, it has been the universe saying to me, "It's time for a change, honey." I remember my first failure. It happened at 8 years old. I entered spelling bee and I came dead last. Everyone laughed at me. I became the joke of the school. But I didn't get mad. I didn't get sad. What I did, I joined in the laughter. I joined in the fun. Absolutely, they needed to laugh. I was there running my mouth that no one knew how to spell the word cousin, but I did. And lo and behold, of course, I didn't. But what happened is I became the most popular girl in school. And it was in that moment that I realized failing doesn't mean I'm finished. Do you know what a lesson that was for me at 8 years old? To learn that although I had failed miserably and fell flat on my face, I still had a chance. And I want you to know that you always have a chance. When I think about Nelson Mandela, who proclaimed, "The glory of the human being is not about never falling, but it's about rising every time you fall." Ladies and gentlemen, it is not about falling. It is most certainly about how many times you can pick yourself up, how many times you won't give up, how many times you will convince yourself, "I can do this and I will do it again." It also echoes Maya Angelou to me, who says, "And still, like air, I rise." Ladies and gentlemen, when I think about those two quotes, and especially those two individuals, it reminds me I always have a chance to move on. In fact, this reminds me of a time when I was a young fundraiser. I was working for one of New York's politicians or public officers, and I had been working in her campaign office for a while. And I suppose they saw some promise in me and decided that they would give me a chance. So a fundraiser was set up, and I needed to go to a particular address that would have quite a few big money donors. I would meet the candidate there, and more or less I would be her right hand. Lo and behold, I remember showing up at the venue, and I rode up the elevator all the way to the top floor, the penthouse. I came out and presented to a conference room with perhaps still the biggest and most impressive conference table I had ever seen. It had those big black leather chairs. And I don't know what it was. Maybe I was intimidated. Maybe I was overwhelmed. Or maybe I did step into some shoes bigger than my feet. But what I did was to walk to a particular corner of the room. And I sat there, ladies and gentlemen, like a mouse. I took out my notepad and I waited for the candidate to arrive. Within 15 minutes, I recall seeing Alan popped into the conference room. He strutted across the room, went to the table, and claimed my place as his. I was devastated. I was ashamed. But you know, it echoes William Ward when he says, opportunities are like sunrises. If you are not in time to see them, you're going to miss them. And ladies and gentlemen, I missed my opportunity that day. But even now, which that was 40 years ago, even now, I cannot blame Alan. Alan took the opportunity because I opened the door. And most important, I was not hungry enough. Because if I was so hungry, ladies and gentlemen, I would have dug deeply into the pit of my abilities, my skills, and omnipresent gifts and talents, and I would have listened and known at least what to do. Even if I sat there, even if I did not handle the opportunity well, I would have been the one known for having accompanied the candidate there. So Alan did nothing wrong. You know, ladies and gentlemen, to develop success, most times it comes from failure. And that means you have the courage to do so. In fact, I think about H. Emily Cady at this moment, who asks, bondage or liberty, which? Ladies and gentlemen, from that day, I have been choosing liberty, because liberty represents courage. It represents freedom. And I have developed courage. And I would like you to know that courage just means you are willing to do something again and again until you can do it right. In fact, B.B. King used that very same thinking. She said, champions will do it over and over again until they get it right. You know, ladies and gentlemen, it took me almost 15 years to rebuild my career. 15 years. And that was after failing time and time again. But somehow, as I said, that experience from Alan at a very impressionable time in my life as a young professional trying to come up, it showed me that I have to be prepared. So in order to really grab hold of the opportunities that come our way, we have to be prepared. And I was not prepared enough. I had wished it. I had thought it. I had dreamt about accompanying Liz, but I was just not ready for it. And you know, just like Edmund Hillary said, he said, it's not the mountains we seek to conquer, it is ourselves. And I tell you, I had to really reflect. I had to really think about things, and I really had to overcome me. I had to overcome my emotions. I had to overcome my overthinking. I had to overcome the pity party that is always waiting to celebrate with us. You know, I would like to tell you that even Madame C.J. Walker, who said, you can't just sit and wait for an opportunity to come to you. Sometimes you have to get up and make the opportunity. And that's what I did. I had to get up. And shortly after that period of time, incidentally, I had started working at another company. And I believed I was getting to a place where I was growing professionally. And then, boom! 9/11 happened. 9/11 changed my life. And I know it is not just my life that was changed. It changed the lives of millions of people, not only Americans, not only New Yorkers. But all my plans now were gone. I had to get up and make an opportunity. And I remember I then said, no, I can't. I can't travel through the subways. I can't go over the bridges. So I decided to open a restaurant in Queens where I didn't have to deal with Manhattan. I opened the restaurant, but it was a total failure again, ladies and gentlemen. But at least I was trying something else. You see, oftentimes you don't know what will work. You don't know what will work. But you do know that once I can get up and keep going, something will work. And I think about Maya Angelou again, who said, you can't always control the things that happen to you in life, but you most certainly can choose not to let it reduce you. And even when I started my restaurant, I didn't even have the first nail to build it out, but I had faith. And I tell you, sometimes faith can move mountains. And I had hope, and I knew that if I kept going, if I kept trying, if I kept asking, if I kept knocking, something was going to give. And something did give. My dad, my uncle, myself, we built out that restaurant. And day by day, I was able to build it out. But it was still a failure. But I, knowing me, and anyone who knows me, I never gave up. So I ran my restaurant until I could run it no more. And then again, I had to get up. I had to get up, and I decided, okay, I'm going to move on. You see, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes in life, what doesn't break you builds you. What doesn't break you builds you. And you just have to have that spirit of not giving up. Sometimes you just have to be fearless. You have to be fearless. And it's not something you might be born with, but it certainly is something you can develop. Because I don't believe I was born with it, but I know I developed it over time. And over time, just wanting to be more. Just wanting to make my family proud. Just wanting to have the ability to provide for my family, provide for my children. I knew I had to do something. And working hard? Be prepared to work hard. And I don't think anyone knows hard work until they have tried opening or running a restaurant. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Theodore Roosevelt who said, believe that you can, and you are halfway to your success. Just believe it. You don't even have to know how to do it. Just believe it. And once you believe it, eventually you will be inspired to do one more thing, then another thing, then another thing. And that's what I did. I listened to my heart. I listened to my spirit. I listened to the silent voice who said, think about this, Marion. Recreate yourself. Think about your options. Perform CPR on your dreams. Perform CPR on your dreams, because right now you might be deflated, but it does not mean you're finished. You know that? You learned that at 8 years old. Failing doesn't mean you're finished. So winter day in February when there was nothing but snow on the streets. I showed up at the restaurant to once again shovel my snow. And in that moment, I said, no más, nada, no more. I am not doing this anymore because there's something waiting, something great waiting for me. A greater part of myself is waiting for me, and I'm going to get it. And the still small voice said, go south. That's all. It just came out of the blue, go south. And I said, south, I will go. You know, I was scared. I can't lie to you, I was scared. But even Helen Keller says, listen, life is either a great adventure or it's boring. You know, one of the things, you have to be a risk taker. And in taking risks, nothing is going to be normal. It's not exactly going to be comfortable. It's a very uncomfortable feeling when you're traveling down the unknown. It's a very uncomfortable feeling when you're feeling your way through life and you don't really know where to really go, what you're going to do, you know? But just like Robert II says, the strength of your character is not in how you handle things before you break. It is how you handle things after you've been broken. And ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, being broken, failing, falling, actually saved me. Because what I did, I decided, yes, I am going to pick up once again. I am going. And I packed my little Ford Taurus with as many items of my belongings I could find. I remember I had $200, and a friend of mine decided to loan me his AAA card because he said, you know, you're traveling all the way from New York to the South. I would really hate myself if you have a blowout and, you know, can't really get roadside assistance. So with those 3 items, my dreams, and a bucket of tears, I drove out of New York City. I drove on that New Jersey Turnpike, and mile after mile, ladies and gentlemen, I cried, but I planned, and I knew that I would make it. And then there it was, sunny Florida. Sunny Florida was there, and I stepped into the state of Florida, a changed woman. Yes, a changed woman. And in fact, in about 5 years, my life was almost completely changed. In 5 years, I saw that, wait a minute, if I could do half of what I did in New York, I can do it here as well. And, you know, oftentimes, you know, that reservoir of skills and talents and ambition and dream that we have, sometimes sitting on it, sometimes not exactly using it to our full potential. I decided to use mine. And it worked. It worked for me. Because like wrought iron, sometimes you are stronger than you know. Sometimes you are stronger than you know. And, you know, as life keep lifing, as my mentor Les Brown would say, trust me, it's time to life back life. When it fights you, fight it back. When it kicks you, you kick it back. Sometimes you have to be that fearless. You have to dare to be courageous. You have to dare to say, No matter what, you're not getting me. You know, oftentimes you just have to refuse to lose. You just have to refuse to give up. And just like failing is a human experience, so is winning. Sometimes that's what we forget. That yes, failing is inevitable, but so is winning. I can win equally as much as how I can fail, but I have to be willing to do what it takes. Do your research. No matter what the area you would like to get involved in, you have to do your research. You have to read. You have to decide how much effort you are going to put into it. You're going to decide how much sacrifice you're going to make for it. And here's another thing. Leave those naysayers alone. Leave those naysayers alone. Because the world is filled with negative people. The world is filled with people who may not always be there for you. They say they will, but they won't. As a matter of fact, I recall Les Brown saying this in one of the sessions we had. He said, you really want to find out who's your friend? Do you really want to find out who is there for you? Call them 3 o'clock in the morning and tell them you need their help. Okay? The friend, the one who is your friend, will not answer that phone and say, what time is it? They will say, hey, you okay? You want me to come and get you? Hold up, let me grab my coat. Let me grab my boots. That's your friend. So oftentimes we allow people into our lives that can just rob us of our motivation, rob us of our dreams. And they do. You know, it's the discouraging type. All right? It's the one that discourages you. You know, as a matter of fact, I'm recalling Winston Churchill, who said, winning or failing is not final. Winning and failing is not final. It's the opportunity to get up and do it again. That makes all the difference. Just to get up and do it again. You know, when I got to Florida, as I said, I didn't know what life would present to me. But ladies and gentlemen, in less than 5 years, this inexperienced girl that allowed Alan to waltz in and take her place at the table, she created her own table and sat right there at it in the middle of the $1 million nursing school she founded. Yes, she did. And that is not after winning so much after. It was failing and failing again. But the bottom line is, I never gave up. You see, ever since I was a little girl, I made a promise to myself. In fact, I first made the promise to my father. When I was about 12 years old, my parents had to leave the country in search of a better life. So because they could not take me with them, they placed me in boarding school so that I could attend high school. And I remember my dad and I walked up to the big gates of the woman I would be living with. Her name is Mrs. Buckner. And we walked up to the gates and Daddy looked down on me and he said, Marion, listen, I want you to behave. I want you to do your schoolwork. I want you to be the best girl you can. please don't give Mrs. Buckner any trouble. I said, "Yeah, of course, Daddy, I won't. Of course, I won't." So I looked up at him, and he looked down at me again, and he said, "Marion, do you promise?" And I said, "Of course, Daddy, I promise." Ladies and gentlemen, I did not keep that promise to my father. And that became one of the most crucial lessons in my life to this day. I did not keep my promise. He doesn't know that. My dad doesn't know that, but I do. You see, Mrs. Buckner's brother came to visit from Canada, and they were there having a grand old time. She made the most wonderful dinner, and she served out her liquor cabinet, and she had all the liquor there, and they were just having loads of fun. They had absolutely forgotten that there was a 12-year-old in the house, and one like myself who was quite curious and precocious. And I stole Mrs. Buckner's vodka. Before I knew it, I was standing in the middle of the hall, spilling all of her family's secret. OMG. She could have died. And so could I when I found out the following morning what I had done. But ladies and gentlemen, I know I disappointed my dad, and I know I disappointed Mrs. Buckner. And she was a good woman to me because she took me into her home and she treated me well. And she had made me promise to be the best that I could be in my life. And when I realized I broke that promise, I reinforced the promise I had made directly with her. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, you know, you just got to keep that word. Like Helen Keller says, a word is said, sometimes is dead when said. But I say it has just begun that day. And when I think about a quote like that, many of us, we don't keep our words. And it was so important for me to keep my word that even in the light of my failures, I knew I had to keep the word to myself to be the best that I could be. And the best that I could be meant I have to be the most that I can be. Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you just have to be the most that you can. Just like, you know, I think it was Mahatma Gandhi who says, learn as if you will live forever, but live as if you will die tomorrow. And at times, that is the attitude you need to get the latitude you require. You have to live as if tomorrow is that last day. So I am going to do everything that I can today to make it work, to make it happen. And that's what I did. You know, sometimes we've just got to create those opportunities. We just have to stand on our promise. Ladies and gentlemen, I made it when I came to the state of Florida. But it is still not without challenges. But that is because those experiences that I had as a little girl that I learned from. Because not all of my experiences were positive. You know, after Mrs. Buckner, I had to live in another boarding house, this time with Auntie. We called her Auntie, and I was not the only girl that was present in that boarding school. In fact, she had girls from different countries, Venezuela, America, Canada, England, and there were a few other girls who were from Jamaica that was there. I had Mrs. Buckner's attention to myself, but there with Auntie, I was not particularly one of the ones she was fond of. So I had to really work harder at everything. I remember one day we were there, and in the evenings we did prayers. And I remember her calling out, girls, 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 come on, we have to do prayers. Prayers now. And we're like, okay, prayers is usually at 8 o'clock, but let's go. So we all ran upstairs, and we all took our places around her. And she instructed us, okay, it's time for us to pray. And we have to pray for Marion. I was a little taken aback because I was wondering what happened. Why does she have to pray for Marion? And she said, we have to pray for Marion because her mother is a maid in America. And I was, oh my goodness, what a way to deliver news to a child. My mother is a maid in America? You mean my mother is a maid in America? And it was so embarrassing because the other girls, again, they began to laugh and snicker at me. But again, I didn't make that reduce me. I talked with them. And I held my head high, and I kept on going, and I paid them no attention when they spoke about that, because what that did for me, ladies and gentlemen, was give me power. It gave me strength. It reinforced my commitment to become someone. So sometimes, it doesn't matter what someone says. Even Steve Jobs, he said, everything around you may want to push you away from what you need to do. People, things, distraction, but your vision will pull you closer to it. All right? Your passion will pull you closer to it. So everything that had happened, all it did was to reinforce my ambition to be the best, to be better, to continue to grow. And that's what I would like for you also to think about. What doesn't break you, build you. What doesn't break you, build you. And because I had made those promises to myself, I remember the words of Zig Ziglar, who says, promises made are promises kept. And because of that, ladies and gentlemen, I said to myself, if I don't keep the promise to myself, how am I going to keep it for someone else? And because I had gone through where people ridiculed me, or people laughed at me, or people say, oh, you think you're going to be this big star? Oh, you think you are going to be so successful? I had to be the one to say, yes, I will. I had to be the one to believe in me. So sometimes you have to be the one to believe in you. You have to be your biggest cheerleader, even when no one else around you is. You have to be the one that pick up the pieces and put the pieces of your own puzzle together. But you don't have to do it alone sometimes. You seek out people who you know are there for your good. Maybe not a friend, because generally, friends, they might not want to see you leave. They might not want to see you become better than who they are. So you have to be smart about the people that you select to help to get you to another place. And if that means you have to hire someone competent to coach you, to help you in your development, please go ahead and do so, because it is worthwhile. I tell you, it took me 15 years to rebuild my career, and an additional 15 years to actually learn how to do things a little more right than wrong. How to just do things a little more right than wrong. And while I failed over and over, I keep in mind Thomas Edison. I keep him in mind, where he did not fail 10 times, not even 100 times, not even 1,000 times. He failed over 10,000 times before he made that light bulb glow, ladies and gentlemen. Now that is perseverance. That is perseverance. So sometimes you just have to do it over and over and over again. Okay? Albert Einstein, you just have to do it over and over and over again. You know, even Dale Carnegie, the title of this piece that I am doing today is, of course, I am using my failures as stepping stones. How I use my failure as stepping stone. And Dale Carnegie said that as well. He says to develop success, sometimes you need failure. And when you fail, you use them as stepping stones. You use them as stepping stones. You develop the courage to step boldly. Boom, boom, boom. Step boldly into your future. Step boldly into what is there waiting for you, because it is bright and beautiful. And that's what I tell myself. That's why I talk to myself and I listen to my still small voice that gives me the direction, gives me the intuitive feelings and nature that go, Marion, go for it. It's okay. It's okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have basically been going for a long time. And as I stand here today, I am still experiencing my challenges. Yes, I have developed $1 million nursing school where I've graduated hundreds of healthcare workers, where I circulated millions of dollars throughout my community, where I hired quite a few individuals who came in and worked with me as a family. And ladies and gentlemen, so much good happened or is happening through my school. But I stand right here today still experiencing challenges, and it is my choice. The motto for my school is the power of choice. And I am choosing to reinvent myself even today, because my passion is to do this. My passion is to speak what is in here, because I know if it worked for me, it may just work for someone else. So it is my passion to speak to individuals and to share my story. And I really do pray that it has value. But even more important than that, I am standing in the midst of one of my greatest failures today. And no one would know. No one would know. Because just like Norman Vincent Peale says, change your thoughts, you change your world. And I am changing my world today, because I am choosing to change my thoughts and step boldly into a new direction. You know, I've waited over 40 years to enter this sector. Over 40 years. And I am so happy to be following my dreams. Dream on, ladies and gentlemen. Life is about dreaming. Dream on. How boring life would be, as Helen Keller said. How boring life would be if we really did just one thing every day. Now, listen, in all honesty, you can do that one thing if it is your passion. Because it is said that if you enjoy doing what you do, it's like you have never worked a day in your life. So yes, if it is your passion, do it every day. Find new, better ways to do it. And do it every day. Do it every day. You know, I tell you, sometimes I look at me in the now, and I've learned to give myself grace. I've learned to give myself grace each time I have failed and fallen. You have to give yourself just a little break for missing the mark. Because it is not one opportunity that you have. You can try over and over and over again. And I implore you to try over and over again. You know, just keep doing it. Keep doing it and develop a big mind, a big circle of minds. Mark Twain says, if you surround yourself with little thinking and little minds, you might not get anywhere. You will continually be discouraged. So develop a big, strong mind, a big, strong dream, big, strong hope. Because when you shoot that shot, even if you don't get to the moon, baby, you will get somewhere close to it. You know, I never thought in a million years that I would become this person that I am today. I always knew I was special. Don't get me wrong. And each one of us know that we are special. And if you don't know it, I want you to just pause for a second. Just pause for a quick second. And tell yourself, I am special. Just pause. Repeat after me. I am special. You are. You are special. And special people deserve special things. And the first person to give you that big, wonderful gift is you. Give yourself the gift today to know that you are special and you deserve the best. You are worth something. Your dreams are worth something. And you may not realize that dream overnight. But as sure as the sun rises every day, if you plug away at it a little at a time, you are going to get to a place where you feel so good about yourself. Where when you stand in front of the mirror, just like now, where you stand in front of the mirror like this and you look into your two eyes, you can feel good about yourself. That's what gives me the biggest thrill, is that I can look at myself and I can honestly say, I tried. I can honestly say, I've done my best. And everybody's best looks different, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody's best looks different than the other person. So never compare yourself to others. Don't compare yourself to others. You compare yourself to you. Compare yourself to your efforts yesterday. Compare yourself to your efforts this morning. And when you do that, if you see that you can do better, do it better a moment from now. Do it better tomorrow. Success looks different for different people. One of the things I also learned is that we can't all be lawyers. We can't all be doctors. We can't all be presidents. We don't need to. but we all need to be the best of ourselves. You all need to be the best of yourself. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is just my wonderful pleasure to have talked with you these last 45 minutes. I see good in you, and I see the best in you. And I bid you the most wonderful day. And thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Marion Carberry, and it has been my pleasure.